welcome back. My name is Elena.
And I'm Fotios, and this is the Game Court.
And today is going to be another episode of the Versus series,
where we compare two games, similar but also different games. We present, in our opinion, the similarities and differences between these two games.
Mm-hmm.
And today in particular we're discussing about Concordia in one hand and Transatlantic in the other hand.
It's lost brother from another mother. Right, let's get to it.
So both games are designed by Mac Gerdts, and Concordia is for 2 to 5 players, and with expansion it can also be played solo or cooperatively, whereas Transatlantic is 2 to 4 players. So obviously one first difference, if you wish,
is one
the player
can get
count.
more and
Yes,
one can...
correct.
Now, the explanation from BGG, which is a bit... I would say, neither here nor there. It doesn't really give you much about any of the games, really. It reads, for Concordia, traders compete to build the greatest empire in the Roman Mediterranean. And for Transatlantic, they've written, compete for passengers and freight in diverse shipping lanes. Which is, I think it's a kind of general explanation.
It's the one-liner explanation.
Yeah.
Now, let's say why we decided on these two games.
Yes.
We played Concordia first.
Mm-hmm.
And,
that was years ago, wasn't it?
That was years ago.
Yes.
And after we first played it, it was a copy of our friends. And after we first played it, we immediately decided to buy it. Concordia, we really like it.
We have to say we have different maps as well, because it's a very good... Concordia is a very good game.
It's a very good game. We have the map for 2 players, which is the Crete versus Egypt map.
Mm-hmm.
And then we really like Concordia, but then we made aware of this other game of Mac Gerdts,
Transatlantic, yes.
which also shares some mechanics, as we will discuss.
And it's all sound like industry manufacturing theme as well.
Our type of game, yes.
Trading and stuff like that, which is exactly what we like.
Exactly.
So it sounded like an amazing game to actually try, isn't it?
So we said, let's try it as well, to see what's what about. And yes.
Yeah, it kind of stops there, I think.
Yes.
But we'll talk about it.
So thank you for watching.
Right now.
No.
Right now. So,
yes.
I mean,
the
games have similarities and they have differences. And I think going through the similarities, obviously the theme is a different thing. One is about transportation and shipping with ships.
Going through similarities, you said. Going through the differences, you mean?
Going through the similarities, and I said obviously this is a difference.
Oh.
Well, I'm a mishmash then.
Yes.
And Concordia it does have ships, but it's mainly about traveling and trading.
Yes.
But in a more Roman Empire fashion kind of thing.
And a bit about colonialism, if you wish.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, the theme in Concordia is better integrated, I would say.
Exactly. I think the themes, none of them is particularly, outstanding. But I think because of the integration of the mechanics, I think it's sounder and better. It makes more sense.
But equally, Concordia is like the classical Euro game where you have your map and your resources and everything. Now, the theme in Transatlantic, even if in principle it appeals more to us, I think it's so weakly integrated that it doesn't matter what the theme is in Transatlantic, really. So, yeah.
And you can see that the designer is the same designer, because I feel that the games are incredibly similar, yet it has some differences that, it makes you choose one game instead of the other.
So the basic similarity of the two games is how you play your actions, basically. You have you start with a deck of cards.
Yeah.
Every player starts with the same cards, and you have to manage your hand and play action by action by action. And basically, in both games, you play a card and you do what the card says. It's as simple as that. It's very easy to explain both games, especially Concordia.
Yes.
So you play the card and you do what the card does.
Correct. And I think it's worth mentioning that we played Transatlantic last week, and we finished the game and we said, wow, this is super similar to Concordia. And I didn't realize, because normally Fotis does the shopping of the games and he is more into looking into what we play next, which is fine. But I didn't realize that Transatlantic was made after Concordia, and I thought that Transatlantic might be the baby of Concordia. It's like it was first, and then and Concordia was the more streamlined version of Transatlantic.
Yes.
This is the main theme that it gave me, only to find out afterwards that Transatlantic was released afterwards.
Yeah, Transatlantic feels older, feels more experimental.
Yes.
Feels incomplete and a bit clunky, as well. Whereas Concordia seems the complete design, the elegant design, the streamlined design.
The reason why I want to actually mention this is because, I mean, talking about the hand management now, because you're saying, oh, do whatever the card says. It feels like even the writing on the cards in Transatlantic, it's just so like oddly written.
Yes,
it's not like it's not
it
bad
is.
English, or it's not, translation is, it's good, the sentences are, grammatically everything is correct, but I know they sound so oddly written that it's a bit weird to understand.
Yeah, even the use of the paper money in paper banknotes in Transatlantic,
It gives it this like
older feeling. Yes,
I want to say
correct.
vintage feeling, but yeah.
Now, in similarities, back to similarities, both games have this sense of open drafting, and in fact, Transatlantic has two types of open drafting. The open drafting for where you buy your ships, which is similar how it works to the open drafting how you buy new cards in Concordia, but on top of that, Transatlantic has also the new cards, which you get one every time you retrieve your cards.
And those are the cards that you actually play, the cards that you actually play your actions with, the action cards.
Because you, as you play both games, you play a card, you do what the card says, and you continue doing so, and at some point you need to retrieve your cards, action retrieval, so you play your director card in Transatlantic, or how it's called in Concordia. In Concordia it's called Tribune card in Concordia.
The Tribune card, yes.
And you collect all your cards, basically.
That might give you a little benefit, and in both cases it's the same. If you exceed a number of X cards, then you get some money afterwards.
Money in Concordia or tiles in Transatlantic.
Yeah, some benefit of some sort. Yes. Similarly with Concordia, Transatlantic has a collection.
Yes.
And I think I'm mainly talking about the boats, the ships that you collect. So ships come in five flags,
yes.
And you can make set collections of those that will give you points at the end.
Yes.
And that's the way you actually buy the cards, the boats.
And the Concordia, the same. The more cards you have, the more points you're going to get. And each card on the bottom has a particular scoring condition. And the more cards you have of the same scoring condition, the better, obviously, is the multiplier for how you score in that scoring condition. So you can play with your strengths in Concordia to get more of the cards that you are doing well at, basically.
Whereas in Transatlantic, it's a little bit different because when you take the action of buying the ships itself, you can buy up to 2 ships, and you can buy, obviously, from the first to the last. If, let's say, you decide to buy 2 in the middle, the first card that was not bought, whether it's the first or the second, gets discarded, and it gets discarded into a separate pile.
Yes,
you have to separate them all by colours, and that adds to the
one of the multipliers.
One of the multipliers at the end of the game. So it does matter what you buy, and you have to think of what you actually buy. So in Concordia, it's all standardized, and they're all the same number of cards, but split around the whole.
It's more streamlined.
Yes.
In Concordia, it's as simple.
And the other one, the Transatlantic, it feels like you have to think ahead of: do I want to discard this and give my opponent points if he's actually collecting white ships, or do I just buy it and join his what's the word I'm looking for?
His points, his collection.
His journey.
His journey. Fancy.
I know, right?
Another similarity of the two games is that in both games basically you build your deck of cards because you get more action cards as the game progresses, and these extra cards you get are more powerful than the basic cards. And also sometimes it's nice for the opponent to do the same action as yours. And in both games there is this copy action. I think Diplomat is called Concordia.
Correct. And the other one is called Ship
Agent.
Ship Agent is the one, yes.
In Transatlantic.
They do the same thing. It's just a copy, isn't it? Copy your opponent's action.
Copy your opponent's actions, basically, which is a very cool thing, I think, because if Elena gets a very powerful card, I can simply play my Ship Agent or my Diplomat, just copy that card, whatever the card does, which is very good. I really like this.
But I would say there is a slight difference, even though they work the same. There's still a deck building element in both games. I feel that they work slightly different in the sense of you can increase your deck in Concordia by buying the cards that you want, up to 2 per action, or obviously more if you can copy somebody else's action.
Yes.
Multiple times.
With a Senator card.
Or in Transatlantic, the only way you can increase your not hand limit, but your deck is by getting 1 single card at the end of your deck. So when you play your director,
correct.
when you retrieve all your cards, you can only add one single card that you play at the same time, but it's one single card, so your deck doesn't increase significantly like it increases in Concordia. So it's a little bit of a difference.
One thing I like a lot about Concordia, and also it appears in Transatlantic, is the fact that when you produce in a particular region in Concordia, and let's say I have 2 houses that region, and Elena has 1 house, every house that is going to produce. So let's say I will get some resources, but also Elena will get some resources. So it's kind of positive interaction between players when you produce in one region. And the same element appears in Transatlantic. So if you transport all ships in one region, then you're going to transport all your ships and your opponent, but you as a kicker, as a benefit, extra benefit, you're going to get the income of all the ship of your opponent as well.
But that's only if your opponent does have a coal onto their ship.
So
otherwise, it does not. Yeah. Otherwise, it does not produce neither for you nor for the one that actually takes the card itself. So it takes the action itself. So that's a bit different. So you have to think of what you want to produce at that point.
But if you choose to produce in a region that your opponent doesn't have a coal, which means you don't get the extra income, this means that your opponent will not get the income either.
That's correct.
So there is this balance there.
Yeah, but if they have a super duper ship in there and you want to take their income too, then I think it's worth it. I think it depends. I think it's Transatlantic gives you this. You have to think 3 steps ahead of whether it's better for you. See my point?
Yes.
I think it has this you cannot just do something for the sake of doing something. You have to think of what you're doing and whether your opponent will benefit from it 3 steps ahead, kind of thing.
Whereas in Concordia, you would usually produce in the regions that you have majority.
Correct.
And you would let the other regions for your opponents to produce to get that brick or that wheat whenever they produce. So you wouldn't really bother about that too much. So you do it that way. And producing Concordia, I think the card is called Prefect, right?
Yes, and you have 2 at least, and then you can buy some more. Yes. Whereas the other, in Transatlantic, you have the cards, you have some extra cards, and I'm not entirely sure how they're called. I know one it's pink, because I thought it was very cute. And you can produce using one boat and one ship at a time, and you can produce in regards to your the weight of the ship or how many passengers you have.
Yeah, that's cool.
So the newer and the bigger the boat, the more money you can produce. I think at one point I produced like 300,000 at once.
Yes, 300,000 sterling.
It's all like thousands, isn't it?
Banknotes, like you're rich.
So you can produce a lot of money, but you have to get the nice cards.
Another similarity that I have between the 2 games is how the game end triggers, and this is basically when the basic market ends. And basic market in the Transatlantic is the ships, whereas in the Concordia is the action cards. How you buy these cards when this deck and basically the end of game is triggered.
Do you have another turn in Concordia at the end? Transatlantic gives you one turn,
I think the
one
same
full turn.
More or less the same thing, I want to say.
Oh yeah, because everybody keeps on they will tribune and they will take all their cards back, isn't it?
Or in Concordia, I think no, the player who triggers gets the 7 points.
Correct, and
the
then
Concordia
there's one
card.
Yeah, it's a bit different. Yeah.
It's a bit different then.
Yeah.
But the end trigger game is kind of the same.
Yeah. The main difference that I think, so we've managed to have this discussion before, a few minutes before.
Obviously.
I mean, all day today, I think we've kind of discussed about these 2 games.
Yes.
And this is how we ended up doing this. I mean, we're still on a holiday, but I think because we've discussed about it so much,
it's worth doing.
Might as well, share the idea with everybody, and then you can tell us what you think about our ideas too. And sharing is caring, and it's good to share ideas. And my impression was that resource management in these 2 games is very similar and different at the same time.
Yes.
I feel that they have some similarities, but they're still different. You are a different opinion.
I am. I think they are very different. How resource management is done. I mean, in Concordia, first of all, you have 5 goods and money, and in Transatlantic, basically you have 1 good, just the coal and the money. That's a big similarity.
So a big difference, you mean?
A big difference. So Concordia for me is much tighter and much more challenging to decide exactly what you want to do, what to trade with what, and how much money you need to keep behind to do your other actions, to build house and stuff. Whereas in Transatlantic, I don't think it's as challenging to think about this stuff. Basically, you care about money, and sometimes you put coal on the boat.
I mean, I find that in Concordia, you will be able to have a finite number of elements that you can take with you, and then you can go to the market and you can exchange them for money, or you can exchange them and buy different items as well. You're allowed to do that, and then exchange that later on for other stuff. So I think the market in this game has a very pronounced, it's a very pronounced element
In Concordia.
in Concordia,
Yes.
whereas in Transatlantic, although both of them have the same cards, and when I say same cards, I mean I feel that what's the word I'm looking for? The Mercator card is very similar. It has the same card in Transatlantic, which is called transport card, which allows you to transport the coal that technically, let's say, you do have on your cards on your ships. You are allowed to remove one cube from one boat. I think it's two boats maximum.
Two boats maximum. The basic card is two boats. The upgrade card is three boats.
And that will give you income from whatever that boat might give you income. And I think that's it. So they are similar from that perspective, but I feel that Concordia, it's so much more pronounced. Also, when you produce in a region in Concordia, it does the same thing in Transatlantic. Although I think in Transatlantic you get benefit from your opponent as well, whereas in Concordia you don't. So I think it's a plus for Transatlantic, because you cannot really benefit from your opponent unless in Concordia you cannot do that.
Yeah, well,
when you produce within the region itself, unless you take the money at the end.
In my opinion, the transport action in Transatlantic, either the transport action card itself or the other cards that allow you to transport, like region or global or whatever, in my opinion, is closer to the prefect card of Concordia. And also sometimes you have these specialist cards in Concordia which allow you to produce all the bricks or all the wheat you have available, and they don't give any kickback benefit to your opponents, basically. So for me it's more close to that. So for me the Mercator action in Concordia is a bit different than the concepts in Transatlantic.
Yeah, this is where we actually disagree. I feel like it's more close to one and you feel like it's close to the other, although, you know.
But it's good to disagree, right?
Yeah, it's healthy to have different opinions.
Exactly. Another big difference between the two games is the degree of variability, and Concordia in this sense wins by far. First of all, the way you randomize the board, which tiles you put in each city, and then what each city produces basically, and then also you have the different maps that you can take. I don't know, there are maybe 10 maps in Concordia, maybe even more. So there's a lot of variability there, whereas in Transatlantic, Crossing Oceans, we'll talk about this in a second. Yes, it's not that much variability, it's maybe the same. Is which ships you exclude in the docks, which give you the extra points.
Whether it's not been as successful, and it kind of makes sense for the game not to be expanded, I couldn't presume.
Exactly.
Concordia, have you mentioned the expansion with the salt?
No, I haven't. There's the expansion.
They even have an expansion, so you can get even an extra good to play with as well.
Exactly.
Salt or cloth? Salt.
Salt, I think, which is the wild. Is wild.
Yeah.
Basically.
So I could see why one was expanded and the other one was not, but even more so, I think Concordia is more variability friendly.
I mean, we had some high hopes, not high hopes, we have some hopes for Transatlantic.
It sounded amazing, didn't it?
Yeah, but after playing Transatlantic, I mean, it's not a bad game, it's a good game.
I think we were discussing earlier, if for whatever reason we wouldn't have played Concordia and we would have played Transatlantic before, then I'm guessing that would have been a game that would have stayed in our collection.
But having played Concordia first and Transatlantic after, I don't think Transatlantic has a space in our collection. Concordia is by far the better game.
It just feels more streamlined, really.
It is.
And I think because of that, everything kind of makes more sense.
Exactly. Now there is another version of Transatlantic, a recent one called Crossing Oceans, which also has a map element there, but in a good degree is, we understand is similar to Transatlantic. We haven't played it, but we have played Transatlantic. And
I mean, there are discussions on the internet, so if you feel like you've played it, and you can let us know.
Yes, but for us, Transatlantic is a no, Concordia is a yes, I would say.
And that will stay in our collection.
Correct.
And that's it.
So thank you for watching our video.
I hope you enjoyed it.
Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.